Hey guys, Jeremy, National Fire Radio. We're here in Lower Township Fire District number 2, the Town Bank Fire Company. I got Brett Douglas, the lieutenant of the fire company, and I also have Matt Franco, who's the battalion chief. And today we're here looking at their 2022 Pierce Velocity 100-foot rear mount tower ladder. We got a lot to go over. We're going to do a walking tour of the truck and talk about the importance of their build. All right, Lieutenant, so break it down for me. We're here. Thank you for the invitation. We're working with Fire and Safety Services on their 2024 calendar project. Here we are in Town Bank. So break it down for me. I'm always curious why departments build the trucks that they build. And so a 100-foot rear mount tower ladder, it's a big truck. Talk to me a little bit about why you guys decided to go with this truck.
Prior to this build, we had a 1994 rear mount 100-foot tower as well. Pretty much looked to replace it with a very similar style truck.
So replacing a 94 Pierce rear mount tower ladder. You guys, Chief, you were super dialed in on rear mount tower ladder operations. And so in Lower Township, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have 3 fire companies here. So the other 2 fire companies also have aerials. They're running rear mount straight sticks?
Correct, 75-foot straight sticks.
So this is a great complement to the arsenal that you have in Lower Township.
Yep, correct.
Awesome. Well, why don't we do this? We're going to take a walk. We're going to go around the driver's side first, and we'll start talking about the truck.
Perfect.
Great. Okay, Chief, so here we are. We're standing outside the Velocity chassis. Why did you guys choose to go with the Velocity?
We went with the Velocity because our last 2 builds were both Velocities, and it really complements the fleet pretty good. They're wider, they got one-piece windshield, complements the crew pretty nice, and our guys really like them.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I know that they offer a wider stance and variations in the height of the build, which is important, right, for comfort, for the ride, and so on, a little more room. Lieutenant, you're riding in the front seat all the time on this truck, so talk to me a little bit about that officer seat.
So the officer seat, just as you guys both spoke about, everything is a little bit wider, a little bit taller. It allows you to really have everything spread out, have everything set up nicely. The view, as Matt mentioned, is great driving down the road. Even with the cab being standardized with the rest of the fleet, it helps us with driver training on the new trucks as well.
I think standardization is really important, right? One thing is dealing with a consistent vendor like Fire and Safety as the Pierce dealer in New Jersey, right? To work with them, preventative maintenance, scheduling maintenance, things like that. Also, familiarity of it for your chauffeurs and the guys that are working off the truck. It's nice to have consistency for sure. I agree with you 100%. I also know that the Velocity offers a great ability to be a larger workspace for our firefighters, a little more comfort in the ride. Let's work our way down the truck. We'll talk about the pump panel next. All right, Chief, so we worked our way around from the chassis. We're now back in the pump housing. Let's talk about reasons for the puck design. What was important to you about the puck design?
The low level of operation. We're on the ground, we're not reaching for anything. It gave us room for the cross lays so that we're not way up in the air like we were on the other trucks.
Sure.
The safety thing for the guys, so that they're closer to the ground. We're not worried about them overreaching.
The ability to come in, shoulder load your bundle, and go. You're right. We're not climbing, we're not hopping up. It's also the low profile of the pump housing itself.
Yes.
Allows for that to come down. Brent, as a lieutenant, you might be stretching off of this. I know this is not your primary suppression piece. This is going out second due after your engine company. But if you guys get in a situation where you have to stretch, the benefits of this?
The benefits are that we actually have it here. Like you said, it doesn't get used a lot, but it still makes everything pretty versatile to utilize the aerial, utilize the cross lays in the different sizes, and kind of hit whatever you need to.
Gives you the ability to have that option, right? As a volunteer department, you're out on a detail, you're in-house, the engine company's across town, fire comes in, this is going out the door. It gives you the ability to have water and hose at the initial.
We can do everything with this truck that we can with our engines.
Yeah.
It is laid out exactly the same. It's got a little bit less water, only 200 gallons, but we still got 50 gallons of foam and a foam proportioner, so we can stretch our water as far as we need to wait for our tanker to show up with the 2,000 gallons to support us.
It is a suburban community. You have domestic water, you have a hydrant system, but there's also areas that you don't, or longer lays that you would need your tankers or tenders to supply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with manpower nowadays. If we roll out with 3 people, we need water on the truck. We can't be laying 5-inch hose and trying to hook up at the same time. We need the other engine to come in.
I get that. And you said something very interesting to me before that really caught my ear, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you. Me, I've never used these pull-out trays before, right? The speed lays. You said that there was a real big upside to it also that you guys recognize, and it's your people's time. As a 100% volunteer department, we have to be careful and protect the time that our volunteers are spending at the firehouse and on the fire ground.
The community employers of our people are very helpful in allowing people to leave. They're paying them while they're gone.
Sure.
So if we have them out during the day on their way from their jobs, there's no production going on there, so we want to get them back to their job as fast as we can. The cross lays allow us to pull the hose, do what we have to do, roll everything up on scene, just throw it in the truck. When we get back, we have a fully packed replacement. So we pull it up, stick it in the truck, hook it up, 5 minutes, done. Instead of laying there for 20 minutes trying to pack them.
And then you come back on a drill night or
On
a
a drill
detail
night.
later that night where you can wash, re-rack the hose, and you'll keep these poly bins in the back loaded
Yes.
for the next fire.
Each truck that we have has a separate set of bins. So we can pull every truck if we have to and come back and reload them in the same amount of time.
I love it. Being respectful to the volunteers' times is more important than ever. So I applaud you, Chief, on that. So let's keep walking our way around the truck. All right, Brett, so we were talking about the functionality of the truck and how easy it is to set up and operate. Something super important about that. Talk to me, break it down.
The truck is really easy to set up as a one-man show. Always helpful with having multiple guys, but the aerial you can actually run completely. Once you set it up, you can actually run it completely from the remote. It has one manual nozzle, one automatic nozzle. The automatic is able to be maneuvered through here, but this remote allows you to completely move the aerial, walk around with it within a certain radius, and really have good flexibility on the fire scene.
Flexibility is super important, right? Could be minimum staffing, large fire volume, right? You have some larger residential homes here. You've got commercial, you have industrial. So there's a lot of potential for large fire load. And so when you have an elevated master stream like that, sometimes flexibility is a super important thing.
Correct. And safety. If you don't want to have somebody in the bucket, you can run everything right from here. Keep guys and lives down here on the ground.
I love it. Good. All right, Brett, so we're walking down the body on the driver's side. A couple things we want to talk about, right? Through conversation, you guys were telling me on your last tower ladder, not a lot of compartment space for equipment.
It was very limited. The compartments weren't very deep. A lot of this side was really taken up by the driver pack, the extra bottles, the Brit packs, things like that. We really tried to incorporate any space that we could, even for extra bottles. Here's our driver's pack. All of our extra bottles, our extinguishers, our driver pack is all incorporated somewhere into the body, allowing all the extra space to be utilized for other tools.
Maximizing space, super important. It's nice when you can go from an older truck to a newer truck, get a lot more value out of it, right, by having more compartmentation. I think some other smart things too, right? You guys elected to go with roll-ups, right? But then you have a hinge door here.
Correct.
And the hinge door is just because of the spacing and the ability. If you had a roll-up here, it would take so much space, right?
Correct.
So it's just common sense ideas like that that I think maximize your storage space.
Correct, and we still have extra storage space, which is great for any kind of new equipment that we get over time.
A lot of fire companies, right? Volunteer fire companies, 20, 25-year purchase. So you don't know what the next 20 years are going to bring you. So to have some available real estate is super important as you guys build out your responsibilities and services to your community. Okay, so Brett, why don't you take me through the setup of the truck? I know that's super important to you guys. We were talking about it before as we were operating the truck earlier. You talked about the ease of setup, how important it is to set it up quickly, one man.
Yeah, and especially compared to the older truck, the setup of this is very simple, very easy for one man to do. Obviously, 2 or 3 guys really helps, but getting the plates on there, popping over here, utilizing this to be able to see both sides very clearly and set the stabilizers out and get right up there, get to work very quickly.
Jack pads located on both sides in the rear, super easy for setup. They're locating jack pads that have angle iron on them. They hitch on, down they go.
Yes.
Chief, talk to me a little bit about the rear end. It's a little bit unique. You guys tapered the corners Talk to me about that.
On our old truck, the corners were squared, and on the outside was a railing right at the rear end of the truck. We took that railing out 3 or 4 times in the lifetime of that truck.
Happens.
So it happens. So when we talked to Pierce about the new truck, we talked about having a taper. This was an issue to begin with. It was questionable as to whether or not they could do it because all of the controls for the main are behind this plate. So they weren't sure that they could find the room. Well, their engineers found the room, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier for us to get out. We've got that little bit of extra room.
Yes.
If you make a mistake making your way out the door, you're not taking the corner of the truck off.
It should be said too, as we drove around your district earlier too, this immediate area has some wide streets. But as you get down into the more populated sections, those streets narrow very quickly.
Yes, they do.
You got cars parked on both sides, double parked cars. This is not a small truck. So any assistance you can get on maneuverability is a home run.
Yes, it is.
Ground ladders in the back, super important. 35, 18, 16, 16, 28. You got multiple lengths in your hooks and your pike poles. Just super important, right? And the other thing too is it does have a pump. We need hose. Talk to me about what we have in the chute.
In the chute, we have 500 foot of 5-inch supply line going to 5-inch years ago from the 2.3s. All the departments around here do the same thing. It made for a big change in the hydrants because as hydrants were put in the area, the threading was different.
Yeah.
So we may have had 3 or 4 different thread combinations. When we went to Cape May had their very own thread that was custom. So now we've got 4 or 5 different adapters in the truck. At this point, we don't need them. Everything's got a storage connection on the steamer. We can just run up, hook up, and go.
Smart considerations in the rear. We're going to take a walk around the officer's side. All right, fellas, so as we walk around, the one thing that really stands out to me is how well laid out the truck is when it comes to equipment. Right, you got a lot of loose equipment. We alluded to it before that your older rear mount, the 94 Pierce that you had, didn't have a lot of storage room. This truck offers a lot of square footage for storage. Back here on the officer rear, you have your saws, forcible entry, your roof saw, your new electric saws, and a lot of other complemented hand tools that are nicely mounted. Talk to me a little bit about the process and working with fire and safety on upfitting the truck.
From the start, from Pierce, we already had a lot of the trays really accessible. We had a lot of things to just get into general areas, and fire and safety really helped to outfit each one accordingly and to make sure they're safe traveling down the road. And a lot of things, even just setting up certain bags.
What we did is we dumped our old truck, we laid everything out next to the truck, and we decided, we wanted the saws back here just for the ease of access going right up to the top. They, especially Tucker up there, he kind of fitted that all in there where we didn't think we were going to have, 2 saws over here, 2 saws over there. He found a way to get them in there. All the custom bracketry and everything, it was awesome.
Well, it's really well laid out, and so I know how much time and effort goes into upfitting a truck because usually when you go side by side, you dump out all the equipment off the old truck to put it on the new one. You might want to say, hey, we've been running it this way for so long, but if we just tweaked it a little bit, this saw could go in this compartment instead of this compartment. So there's a lot of work that goes into upfitting, and fire and safety does a really nice job. I've seen them do it hands-on time and time again, and they always come out with a top shelf build. All right, fellas, so here we are midship on the officer's side. A couple things I want to talk about real quick. I see right here cord reel. So obviously we have a cord reel up top. This compartment's your electrical compartment. You're still running box fans, so you don't have all battery equipment, so you need the cord reels.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. You got pigtails, males, females, double males, double females, everything you need right here. Makes perfectly good sense. Brett, talk to me about the spotting camera. What are we doing with those?
So the spotting cameras help when you're setting up the truck to allow the driver to see exactly where the outriggers are going. You can see if they're going to go in a good spot before you get to the point where they're out and you're realizing that, oh, they're in a bad spot, we got to move the truck.
Awesome, I love that. And then lastly, let's go way up top. We got a big storage box off the ladder itself, the ladderway. Talk to me about what you keep up there.
So another part with storage there, we needed to utilize any space we could. Up in that box, decent sized box, that allows us to have our Stokes basket, our backboard. It allows us to have our life brackets for the bucket to attach ladder or the Stokes basket to, and just keeps it centrally located directly up to where it would be needed.
I love it, thank you, good information. All right, Brett, so break it down for me. Inside the cab, 5 Scott seats. You got your chauffeur, your officer Scott seat up front. And then you have 4 seats in the rear, all SCBA seats.
Correct.
What else are we doing back here?
So we still wanted to keep the 6-man cab. We did the jump seats to allow a little bit more space if there's not the full 6-man crew. The biggest thing with the raised cab, you don't actually get full height of it because of the tower, the whole aerial going across. So we ended up doing a full-size cabinet in the center that holds all of our rescue ropes.
It's a great spot for EMS equipment. Rope rescue is fantastic. Putting your ropes in there, it's nice and clean. It's a clean environment.
Always.
Your stuff is up out of the compartments, no road grit, no grime. Everything's put inside and clean. Okay, Chiefs, every time I walk into firehouses and I look at apparatus, there's always something personalized about them, right? A logo, an image, a saying. The one thing that stood out to me is life is good and we're living large. It's a unique saying, and I'm curious where it comes from. A little backstory on it.
Well, our 1994 Pierce Tower was replaced. That replaced a 1955 Seagraves. When it was replaced in '94, Lieutenant Dave Douglas was assigned to it. He was assigned to the previous truck, so it rolled over. And now Dave Douglas is a life member, obviously lieutenant on the truck. He was a commissioner for our department, but also he was a Lower Township police officer. Same year, one night, response to a call. He gets there ahead of the backups and finds the perpetrator that he's looking for. That gentleman grabbed him. They got into a scuffle. The gentleman shot him. Shot him down behind his vest. And he passed at that time, right on the scene. They flew him out, but he was already passed. At that point, we dedicated the '94 truck to him. There was a plaque put on there showing his name and life is good and we're living large. That was his answer to any problem that we ever had in this station. That's just the man he was. Everything was good. So that was his say. So when we traded the truck in, we took the plaque off and we gave that to his wife and kids.
Yeah.
You know, as a remembrance.
Of course.
When we were out at Fire and Safety, or at Pierce, on our final inspection, trying to figure out something to keep that legacy going. So the day before our final day out there, I got a hold of the graphics people, which are incredible. Lady came out, talked to her, told her what I was wanting to do. In probably a half an hour, she came out with a rendering of what I wanted on the truck. We approved it, we left. That was 5, 6 o'clock at night by the time we got out of the factory that day. Knowing that the next day we were coming in to do a walk around like we're doing here, and we figured at some point that would be on the truck between the time it left the factory and the time it got to Fire and Safety for our final inspection there. When we got there at 8 o'clock the next morning, the graphics team had that there, ready to go. I can't say enough for them.
8 o'clock in the
It
morning.
was just amazing.
That had to be a moment for you guys to walk in and to see your new truck, your new build, and then have a saying of a fallen brother and friend of yours on the side of it while you're still there.
It was pretty emotional.
I bet. It's still emotional today. When you guys told me the story earlier before we captured it on film, it's emotional.
Every time we go over that, it's hard. It gets a little harder, and it's his memory, and we have to keep him alive. And that's what that's all about.
I look around, you got younger guys in the firehouse, guys that come in, and it's something that stands out. And so everybody's always going to ask about it. What does that mean? Where does that come from? It's a way for the story to continue. The legacy of your fallen brother and friend.
Not a story I want to tell, or I wish I didn't have to. I wish your man was standing behind us right now.
Life is good, and we're living large, and I'm sure he's looking down on you.
Yes, we are.
And chuckling and smiling at what you're doing here. So, Chiefs, thank you very much for sharing that story. I think legacy is super important in the fire service, and I think we have an obligation to educate our own as they come up through the fire service about those that came before. So, it's a great way to do it. So, thank you for recognizing a friend and a brother. All right, fellas, thank you so much for the walking tour. First off, the invitation to be a part of this. Working with Fire and Safety on this project's been great because I get to travel around the state looking at all different builds that they've done, and for the 2024 calendar, it's exciting to see that this beautiful tower ladder is going to be in that chute.
Fire and Safety has been great to work with on this project. We've worked with them
for many years, since '94. This is our 7th truck, I believe, is with them. Nothing but good things to say about them. They're helpful. They point us in the right direction. Any issues we have after the sale, the guys are here right away for warnings, repairs, whatever, which very few things, these little things here and there, but that's what happens.
That's good. It's nice when the process is smooth.
Yes.
And working with a dealer that understands the needs of the customer and a good back and forth and a good relationship, a good give and take makes for a good experience. So a lot of Pierces within the department here. It's nice to see. Long-standing relationships are always the case with a lot of dealers. And so it's nice to see that's continuing. Chief, thank you very much for the invitation. It's been an absolute pleasure being here
Thanks
tonight.
for coming. We appreciate you being here.
Guys, thanks for tuning in. Check out Fire and Safety Services out of New Jersey, the 2024 calendar. You got to have one. Go get one. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.